Hey, some of you who used to watch Born on the Corner a few years ago would know that one of my favorite shows, something of a guilty pleasure for me usually, is Canada's Worst Driver, and they're in the middle of a new season right now, Canada's Worst Driver Ever, uh, which, as the name kind of implies, is what could kind of be called the worst of, in that all the worst drivers, or most of the worst drivers from the last few years, are coming back to be reevaluated. And even within all the mayhem, it's interesting to see how some of these people have improved their skills. Um, but that's not why I'm making this video. If you remember my earlier rants about Canada's worst driver, I tend to single out this one person, uh, Angelina from season 5, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, she came off until very recently as basically the typical blonde bimbo stereotype. I mean, on top of being one of the worst drivers I've ever seen. She just flew off the handle at a moment's notice. She didn't seem to get anything. And there's not really a polite way of putting this. She kind of looks like floozy. But I'm changing my attitude towards her, and it's because of the episode that aired this week. The last couple of weeks have implied that there may be something going on with Angelina besides simply being a bad driver. Namely, that to the extent that the show talked about it, apparently her family doctor retired recently, and there's something like a 3-year waiting list in her hometown to get a new one. And the reason why this is a particularly big problem with her is that she's supposed to be on anti-anxiety medications. She can't get that prescription refilled. So she is such a basket case, whether she's driving or not, that she has little option but to self-medicate. In other words, she drinks and she pops pills. So it got to a point in the most recent episode where they actually took her out of the driver rehab center and put her in a real rehab center for 60 days. So, to begin with, Angelina, if you happen to be watching this, I know I've gotten some comments from people calling themselves your friends. If you are watching this, I really, really apologize for being as harsh with you as I have been. I mean, especially knowing the context, what might have had anything to do with you. I mean, it's hard not to laugh at the inherent slapstick of of the driving, but there's nothing even remotely funny about seeing a human being break down to that extent. I mean, if you have any kind of a soul, you would have been moved by that. But what particularly got to me is that, to inject some of my own personal experience into this, and without naming names, in the last couple of years or so, I've been very close to this young woman who is bipolar to begin with, has anxiety, and has just had to deal with a lot of really horrible shit. There's no other way of putting it. A lot of bullshit that, frankly, no one should have to deal with, especially all at once, and even more so when she's barely in her 20s. And the way Angelina broke down during this week's episode, the things that she said, I've actually heard from this girl. One of the most wrenching things I've ever done. And unfortunately, it's at a point right now where she's just such a mess that I've had to do my own 60 days and cut off contact with her, completely isolate myself from her, just because if I keep on trying to get into this desperate situation, it's just going to take me with it. I'm not completely abandoning her. I'm not ruling out the possibility of talking to her or being close again. I don't think it's very likely, but watching Angelina go through that was really a dagger in the heart in a lot of ways. But anyway, the point that I guess I'm making, and Angelina, if you're watching this, giving you a bit of a hard time over your driving, that's one thing, but as far as everything else in your life is concerned, I seriously hope that you're getting help. No one deserves to go through what you've been through. And anyone watching this, regardless, anyone who's been watching Canada's Worst Driver, you know what Angelina has been acting like. I can pretty much guarantee we all know at least one person who's in that who acts like that, is in that kind of situation. Maybe even ourselves. Contact your local mental health authorities if you do. I mean, you never know what kind of difference it might be making. That's it for me.